Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen up, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to be talking about the one and only Brett coin. Listen, first of all, we're going to just cover Bitcoin, right? Because we can see Bitcoin has been roughly consolidating. Let's just say roughly between, 93,730 and, 95,000, generally speaking. So, not too much volume in the last couple of days, right? We can see it has wicked a little bit below on Monday, but other than that, we kind of have just been ranging. So, very, very boring, massive, massive snooze fest. But I still do expect personally some type of sweeps, you know, down to, this 91,000 candle. We also do have a nice, double bottom here. That is what I personally am looking for, right? I'm looking for Bitcoin to retrace, to correct itself, so then we can, respect this massive, massive area of, 92,000 roughly, right? Because we can see on the bigger time frame, this is the area we need to respect to then, continue pushing up higher. Now, technically, if we're super, super bullish, we can just kind of continue right away. But, it does look like we are losing some type of momentum. The monthly candle, however, is, only a day or two away from closing. So I don't expect it to pull back now, but probably the first week of May is when we will get some type of pullback. With that being said, let's just jump right into Brett, right? Because, I haven't covered this coin, in a long time, but we can see that Brett is doing pretty solid, right? It is doing pretty solid. It had a massive correction, but I do think this coin is a good flex coin to have. Now, I'm never, I wasn't the biggest, fan of Brett, only because I do believe, there are better options, but this is practically the number one based coin, right? You could debate, number one, number two, number three, right? But pretty much it's doing really well. And the thing is, we're not listed on any, big exchanges like Coinbase or Binance yet, which is also a good sign for the future in terms of its, boom power, right? You get listed on those, you potentially get listed on Robinhood, you can get a lot more momentum. So, pretty solid 600 million market cap, 42 million in volume. If we go to all, and actually, if we go in the last 7 days, I'm pretty sure we rose a good amount. Exactly. So 32%. In the last month, we doubled pretty much. So, great bounce back, great recovery. If you bought near the bottoms, you would have been up a good amount. Like, I already said before, but up double the amount. Now, I will say, I do think there is going to be a big, quick pump sooner than later, right? Pretty much trading and charts are just kind of a game like ping pong, right? So we can see that we were at the bottoms here. So I expect this coin to come up to here, have a little bit of a pullback, right? Probably get back to roughly 4.5 cents, consolidate, and then attempt to push up, slow down a little bit. And then once we respect the 7 cent zone, I kind of expect Brett to really start pumping the gear and probably get to at least 12 cents very, very quickly. Now, I'll show you why I believe this is the zone. Number one, right, we have a lot of imbalance up until roughly, 12 and a half cents, which means price going from 7 cents to 12 cents is not going to be hard. We could also see that if we go on the weekly, like we are right now, we do have a good support and resistance zone here, which I will believe that we will try to reclaim and, make a comeback to these zones. Once we kind of make a comeback to these zones, I do expect for us to then, respect a little bit and then attempt to go back to all-time highs, most likely selling off a little bit, but then consolidating and looking to push further up. Now, just based off market cap, right? If we were to just even, 5x, that would be roughly 3 billion market cap. We would be roughly around 30 cents, which would, put us past, the all-time highs. Now, in terms of the peak for this coin, I do think it is going to be under 10 billion market cap. Now, unless there's a based meta, right, I don't see it hitting the 10 billion market cap or more personally, right? However, if Base is going to be in the spotlight at one point, then this is probably the coin that's going to smash 10 billion and try to go upwards of 15 billion. A realistic price point for me would probably be around the 7 billion market cap, which would mean roughly, 70 cents. So, you know, more than a 10x, more than a 10x. You have to remember that 600 million market cap's already a decent amount. Um, but there's, like I said, it's a decent coin. I would like the volume to be a little bit better. But like I said before, Coinbase is not listed, Binance is not listed. I don't see Kraken here. So, a few exchanges that are still, potentially gonna list this coin. So, is it worth the risk? I think so. Brett has always been a solid play, right? I really think it's not bad if you get it on a pullback, right? Especially if it goes down, let's just say roughly another, 15-20%, which would what be like around 500 million market cap. I think it might be worth the risk. Um, it is more of a dark horse. Like I said, this is one of those coins that I kind of put in the middle ground that has decent upside potential and, potentially could peak very high if the base chain does blow up and there is a meta at one point. Now, things that are always more common are going to be like an Ethereum meta, especially like coins like on Solana, I'm super high on. Base, you know, 50-50, right? Most likely there will be some type of hype. So, don't be bummed out. Don't be bummed out that the fact that is on base. That's what makes it a dark horse. And that's what can potentially, make this coin pump 20x instead of 10x. So pretty solid, right? The journey is still, a while away to get to something like this. But I do think it's very possible. So if you are holding this coin at even the all-time highs or even up here or anywhere, I personally would not worry. This coin is going to do decent at the bare minimum. And if it did flop, right? If it did flop hypothetically, like I said, I do think it would probably go a little bit higher than the all-time highs. And that's if it flopped, the worst case scenario. But I really don't think it is going to flop. So no need to worry. Like I said, once again, pretty solid coin. If I were looking to be buying this coin, I would be looking for some discount opportunities, roughly 5.5 cents to 4.5 cents over the next couple of days, maybe upwards of 10 days. So that is it from me, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys did enjoy, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.